Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Thursday night Anamkara meditation program. With all my heart, with all my love, I welcome you to our program this evening. So glad you were able to join us. Each one of you is the embodiment of the divine, and it's to know that completely, to be able to live that fully, to be able to walk that into our everyday lives, that we do the practices. Including the practice of satsang, keeping the company of the truth, both in terms of teachings and practices, but the company of the truth embodied by each and every one of you. So it's great to see the many faces that truth wears, because each and every one of you is a face of the divine. And our practices are all aimed, all the meditative practices, all sadhana practices, are aimed at knowing that fully, completely, moment by moment, not just once in a while. That's great, but we want to know that all the time. So that's why we do these practices. And just to help us be able to shift our awareness, because, all the practices in the end, they work with attention, they work with awareness. So we're often having to pull our attention and our awareness away from all the busyness and content of the mind that we've been engaged with all day, all week, all month, all life. So there's a lot of momentum behind that engagement, and we need to keep pulling back, stepping back, using our awareness, our attention, to begin to look at the mind rather than becoming the mind. When we can separate it out and look at the mind, then we know the truth is you have a mind, you're not the mind. You have thoughts, you're not the thoughts. You're that luminous awareness that illuminates the content of the mind. So even if the mind is busy, doesn't matter. We can shift our attention to what's illuminating this thought, that feeling, this memory. The freedom comes from being able to shift into that awareness rather than being bound and caught in the content of mind. One way to do that, we start with the programs with, is just to take a few minutes and dial into the breath. And the breath is just this tidal wave of the breath coming in and going out. And it's a place that as we attend to it, as we give our awareness to that and invite the breath to slow and deepen, well, it does all kinds of things neurophysiologically. The outcome is we feel calmer. It helps to shift what's going on in the brain and in the body. And we can add to it the awareness of this fundamental mantra, a mantra of existence, really, because it's the awareness of simply being. It's the awareness of I am. And this ancient mantra that is a throb, a pulsation, the Shakti, the power of consciousness of that awareness, that's simply ah-hum, ah-hum. And we listen for it in a sense. So it's going on silently. It's going on all the time. But if we shift our attention and start to notice the silently as the breath comes in, and the hum that's silently going on as the breath goes out, and the as the breath comes in, and the hum as the breath goes out. And just stay with that, letting go of all the other ephemeral fireflies of thoughts and feelings and stuff, to just keep coming back to the breath and the and the hum. And that's what we'll do now for a couple of minutes. And so we use the harmonium, and the inhalation is the silently as the breath comes in, and then silently the hum as the breath goes out. Silently as the breath comes in, and hum silently as the breath goes out. I am. Simple awareness of being. just continuing to breathe, but with that added awareness of simply being, of I am. I am. I am the one watching the stream of thoughts, the flow of the breath, the body resting at ease. That boundless awareness, always present, always inviting us to come home to that. And then let that boundlessness of being, that infinitude of being, whose very qualities are boundless compassion, boundless love, boundless wisdom, then that can infuse the mind, infuse the body, transform them. We have that fullness of being. So many things that drive us, so many different ways that we feel empty, lacking this, wanting that. Well, they're born of ignorance. They're born of not knowing the fullness of being. So when we come home to that, so many of these other things begin to fall away. And then we can rest in the truth of who we are and see that same truth in all beings. Feel that love, that connectedness, ultimately that oneness. That's what all the meditative practices on this level are aimed at. Sometimes practices are done more for stress management and things like that, health reasons, and that's all good. But that's like, being invited to a feast and you barely eat the hors d'oeuvres. We want the whole feast. And that means coming to rest in the truth of who we are and being able to see that in all beings, in all creation. So thank you for being ones doing that, each in your own way. So thank you for joining us this evening. And then I look forward to seeing you again